Hey, back with another video. Let's get it. Let's go.
U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports will be cut from 145% to 30%. And now, obviously, that's a massive cut. 30%, though, is still a huge number. It's higher than Smoot-Hawley on average, the 1930 law, which raised tariffs and sparked a global trade war, deepened the Great Depression, and is blamed by many for the beginning of a world war. And for now, the pause on the tariffs, such that it is a 90-day pause for more negotiation. Chief Asia economist at Capital Economics tells the Wall Street Journal tonight, quote, China has successfully called Trump's bluff. And while Trump, of course, is celebrating the deal as a big win, Chinese line on social media fits more in line with what that economist says. Quotes like Trump chickened out, Trump kneeled, China rejected America's tariff bullying and pushed the U.S. to the negotiating table. Well done, China. Nicely played. Out front now, Gene Soroka. He is the executive director of the Port of Los Angeles, which is the busiest port in the United States. You know, our Nick Watt has been going to the port, again and again over days and talking to workers as you started to see the dramatic drop off, right, in cargo. It was numbers and then it became reality at your port. We've got new video of the port tonight. Obviously, it's not as busy as usual. Now, nobody expected Trump to do this, right, to just back off and drop it by the amount that he did. So I guess the question to you is this. How bad was it that he did something this dramatic?
Well, Aaron, I think the conversation really got amplified by the media, by folks in the industry, people that went and visited Washington. And when you saw the stark reality of cargo at the biggest port dropping by more than 30% last week, slamming on the brakes of China cargo, I think it got a lot of people's attention.
So when you're looking at that 30% drop, okay, I mean, that's a world you probably never expected to see again. When I say again, COVID would have been the only other time you would have seen it. Now that this has been announced, you're getting this drop from 145 to 30. 30 is still massive. If we were at the beginning of April talking about 30, it would have been really bad. But when it was 145, it doesn't sound so bad. But it's a 90-day delay, sort of. Does that change the world?
I don't think so. And Aaron, 30% is on.
Yeah, and the markets are going to crash right again when those 90 days start getting close. So it's like they need to come up with an idea, come up with something now. But definitely, China called their bluff. They weren't scared, and they were waiting to come to the negotiation table. And we shouldn't look at it like that. Both sides decided to come to an agreement because they realized that it was going to get bad for both sides.
Top of other pieces that have been added, right? So now where we find ourselves is that's a little bit elevated still for a lot of people, and 90 days is not a long time in our industry. Now, there may be some products that really have to get out. Think of medical supplies, cancer drugs, some other things. But what I'm getting back from Los Angeles today, and we're still only hours into digesting this, is that folks are doing the math. What does it mean if I buy now? Is it better than if I had to cancel?
Say back to school, say Christmas, all those orders.
Summer fashions as well as that, right? And May is traditionally the time when all those purchase orders go in for Christmas and year-end holidays. Some people are going to make some pretty big bets right now.
Right, and it can be kind of scary. All right, so I got my whiteboard out. We've been doing this. So the budget lab at Yale, so this is even after this announcement. So you're going from 145% to 30%. They are still saying that the average prices are going to go up by 2%, okay, in the long run. And that, to them, they say that this is going to be the average middle-class family's increase per year is $2,337. That's the increase in cost. That's with this dramatic decline from 145% to 30%. That's still a massive amount of money.
Every retailer I talked to said they're going to do their level best to pass on the tariff cost to the consumers.
Right.
Parts suppliers are saying I'm going to pass it on to the factory. Now, obviously, there's some work to do around trying to find efficiencies, and maybe if the company can use a little bit of margin compression in that equation, they will try to, but it's going right through.
So it's going right through. So they're not trying to eat it. I mean, I know some of the car manufacturers with really big price increases are trying to eat some of it. But if you're low margin retail business,
they are trying to eat some of it. But if they're a low margin retail business, it'll be almost impossible for them to eat it. Ooh. But at least the bigger companies are realizing, like, eat the cost a little bit for the sake of the American people.
Yeah. So then where do we go from here? I mean, you talk about, and Dan Ives has been in here. He's been tracking this data every single week and seeing the drop. And we've been seeing the ghost ships, right? Or they've been skipping port because there's nothing to pick up, so that they're continuing on their sail route, but half empty or less than that. What do the ships look like that are coming into port?
Well, they're fewer than they were. So we're going to welcome 16 ships again this week to Los Angeles. 11 of those will have made a port call in China, but another 4 from China have been completely canceled.
Oh, man.
So by the end of this month, we'll be down 20% in the number of ship calls and probably about 25% in the volume of cargo. All that means is less jobs on the docks, the truckers, and the warehouse folks, and that happens right away.
So where are we on that in terms of the job loss? I mean, this is the intermodal industry, right? When you have a cargo container come and it can be popped right onto a train and can move, or a truck. What's happening?
It'll lag by a week, but we started to get a glimpse of this last Friday. There were maybe 300-400 dock workers that didn't go out to their normal jobs last Friday. We had only 8 ships in port. Over the weekend, 6 and 7. Today was 9 ships. So there are fewer job opportunities for the dock workers. This week, we'll start to see the truckers haul fewer containers. If they were hauling 4 or 5 per day last week, it's probably going to be 2 or 3 this week. The volume drop was that precipitous.
And an immediate income impact on all of these jobs.
Well, Jake, as President Trump makes his way here for his first major
it's not good.
Foreign trip of his second term in office, he is coming with a bit of a win, at least in his view, and that was his instruction, we are told. He was advising his aides, particularly the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, to, quote, find a win, find something that they could sort of hold their hats on as he comes here to Riyadh for the first day of his foreign policy trip. He'll be arriving here tomorrow, but before leaving the White House, he had this to say about the on-again, off-again relationship and trade war with China.
We're not looking to hurt China. They were very happy to be able to do something with us. And the relationship is very, very good. I'll speak to President Xi maybe at the end of the week.
They cut that off pretty quick.
So President
There's
Trump
so much more said
may
in that.
speak with President Xi Jinping at the end of the week. That would be fairly extraordinary because they have not spoken throughout this ongoing a trade war, Jake. But even though he was advising his officials and the Treasury Secretary to find a win, it's an open question what type of a win that actually is, because China certainly did not give up nearly as much as the U.S. did, and it's only a 90-day pause on this as well. But the president is coming here to the Middle East. He'll be traveling here to Saudi Arabia as well as to Qatar and the UAE. It's more of a trip of a deals, if you will, than diplomacy, but he certainly wants to come here with the wind at his back, if you will, particularly the financial markets. He's looking.
What they didn't show you was that China's factories were shutting down because they didn't have people in the factories being able to send things to the U.S. So it was affecting them just as much as it was affecting us.
For investments from the Gulf states here, Jake, and he's certainly wanted the financial markets to be up today, and in fact they were because of that win, at least in his view, with China. Jake?
Mark Stewart's in Beijing. Mark, why did the government of China agree to this?
That's your point.
You know, Jake, I think this is about economics. This is also about ego. China wanted respect. It didn't want to be bullied by the United States. This has been a big point of conversation on Chinese social media. So after a number of overtures from Washington, this decision to meet in Geneva, which is seen as neutral territory, these talks move forward. The other aspect of this is the economics. China's economy was already shaky before this trade war. Then it hit really hard. It added to concerns about manufacturing, about exports. That also led to the conversations. But I want to point out some very important context here. This U.S.-China relationship is still very fragile. It's a point I'm hearing over and over again. Trade deals are very tricky. They can fall apart very easily. So if we look at some of the messaging that is coming from Beijing, Jake, it's very guarded. While there is optimism, we're also hearing some restraint from the central government.
All right. Mark Stewart in Beijing, Jeff Zeleny in Saudi Arabia traveling with President Trump. Thanks to both of you. Moments ago, Goldman Sachs cut its odds of a U.S. recession to 35%, citing Trump's temporary truce with China. That's good news. The Wall Street Bank had previously estimated a 45% chance of a U.S. recession. Let's bring in CNN's Phil Mattingly. Phil, walk us through the specifics of this temporary trade truce with China and what it means for the average American consumer.
Yeah, the goal.
Yeah, I think that's about it. We get the point. Like they're sitting down at the table, they're having discussions, and that's a good thing, and that's what needs to happen. The egos need to die, and people need to just have these kind of talks. So this is going to be really good. It may be really good. Trump may pull out and do something incredible for us, or it may be the worst thing that could have ever happened in history. Who knows? Only time can tell. Seeming that everybody's coming to the table seems to be a good thing, but hey, what do I know, y'all? I'm out. Peace.